Good evening, everybody. I'm excited to be with you here tonight. We are going to answer at least 10 questions regarding eBay here tonight. And let me see. I'm going to turn off one light here just because there. Hopefully, that's a little bit better. Oh, maybe I'll turn off the ring light too. All right, hold on. We're going to turn off the ring light. There we go. First time doing a live here in a while. So we're going to answer 10 of your eBay questions. And so want to just encourage everyone as you come on in, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Super excited to answer these questions. And then if there are other questions that come in during the live show, we will cover those at the end. If you are watching this on replay, post your question down in the comments below, and then maybe it will be featured the next time we do this. And I'm super excited to do this. So we're just going to start plowing through them. First question I have here, and again, just submit your questions either in the live chat or just in the comments to this video, is how do you keep your integrity as a Christian seller when buyers ask for partial refunds or try to scam you? Is it ever okay to just let it go instead of fighting back? All right, so there's a couple different parts here. So let me handle first. I'm going to break it down. How do you keep your integrity as a Christian seller? Let me just answer that as a very broad spectrum first, which is I always try to make sure that the decisions I am making are in line with the values that I say I hold the most, right? So if I have values that I say I hold, but then those values don't actually dictate how I behave, then that's not really in line with who I am. So that's the broad overarching thing that I would say. So how do I deal specifically with buyers asking for partial returns? I have adopted, and there might be a few minor exceptions, but the Chick-fil-A model, which is full price or free. Okay, full price or free is the model that I have adopted for refunds. Okay, and what this means is if you ever notice, Chick-fil-A doesn't ever do coupons, right? You don't get Chick-fil-A coupons in the mail. They don't do anything. They do full price or free. So basically, when you go to Chick-fil-A, you're going to go and you're going to pay full price for what's on the menu. Or if there's an issue with your order, they will give it to you or they'll give you something for free, but they're never going to do like a partial refund. And I've taken on the same exact mindset for my eBay store. Now, there's a few exceptions, and I'll explain those in a second, where maybe it would be mutually beneficial to do a small refund, but that's really in limited cases. So most of the time, if a buyer requests a return, I have them return the item. However, recently, like a couple of days ago, I had a buyer who requested a return. It was a shirt. It was one of my old shirts. I knew it was dirty. I knew it had holes in it, and I was kind of just excited to sell it and do that. They opened up a return. Now, that reason they opened up a return was it didn't fit, so I didn't have to return their initial shipping. And so for me, in that case, the easiest thing to do was just issue a full refund. Okay, I just issued a full refund, which was like $3. It's like that was it. That I don't want to have them have to send it back and then I got to pay $6 for it. Like I'm out $3, but I'm really not even out that much because it was my own shirt. So full price or free. That's what I recommend that you do when you're dealing with people asking for partial returns. Now, when would I offer a partial return? Well, like I said, it's very, very rarely, but it would be in the case of something that is super heavy to ship, right? Where the return shipping cost is there, and you don't really want to get it back, but you don't want to just give it away for free. That would be where I would try to work out something with the buyer and say, hey, sorry, this isn't performing to your expectation. Would you be interested in keeping it for that? Now, the other thing is, though, as soon as they start fishing for a partial refund, then, like, what can you do about this or different things? That's where it's like, yeah, no, I just have them return it in general. But for the most part, full price or free, unless there's a way that's mutually beneficial to both you and the buyer. And maybe in most of those cases, going to be you don't really want the item back, but you don't really want to give it away for free because there's some sort of value and both parties see that. So I did that once with an air pillow machine, but yeah. Is it ever okay to just let it go instead of fighting back? Absolutely. In fact, for your overall mindset, this is the last part of that question. How do you keep your integrity as a Christian seller when buyers ask for partial refunds, try to scam you? Is it ever okay? Let it go. You're going to get scammed eventually on these things. The biggest thing is uh, don't get emotionally invested into any of this stuff. And I know that's difficult, especially like right now. I'm rebooting this eBay store. And so any return, any potential scam is like painful. Like I had a sale of some gift cards, that was like $40 and it just got lost in the mail and I had to refund it. Like, but that's just the name of the game. You can't get down on it, and you just have to push through. So I think in fact most of the time the right play to do is to let it go, but the simplest way that you can overcome this is just by offering free returns. Now if you offer free returns, you can always just give the refund instead of having them actually return it. But if you offer free returns, it's scammers don't like to go for it because then there's nothing to scam. You just say, "Yeah, sorry, you're not happy with it. Just send it back." So I've offered free returns since we've restarted this store here, and we're about 3 months in, probably almost 4 months in now at this point, and I actually haven't had any returns that have been sent back to me. So I had one open return case, like I said, and I just refunded it because it was $3 and it was just not worth it for me getting back. So a lot of times you can kind of scam prevent by offering free returns. Scammers are going to go after people who are trying to not do things. And does it mean you'll never get scammed? No, of course, you're going to get scammed. That's just part of the name of the game. But I honestly wouldn't get too bent out of shape about it because if you're listing all the flaws and all the issues right up front, offering free returns is actually going to gain you way more buyers than it will returns. And again, we just have free returns on almost everything except for things that are for parts as is or certain sports cards. That's the only things that I don't have free returns on. All right, question number two. Question number two. It's Q4, which fourth quarter. This is the last quarter of the fiscal year here. Okay, it's Q4 now. What's one small adjustment I can make in October that could set me up for a better Christmas selling season? Okay, so what's one adjustment? Well, I would simply say this, and because it's really hard to, without knowing your individual store, the way I would answer this is what is your weakest area? I would fix whatever is your weakest area and do that. So maybe your weakest area is you have a monstrous profit death pile that's just hogging up your room. That's your weakest area. I would get that stuff listed before you spend another dollar. Get that stuff listed and doing that. Maybe your weakest area is you have a bunch of listings in a draft bank, but you actually haven't made them go live because you haven't finished them. Or maybe your weak point is setting yourself on a schedule or whatever. I would attack whatever is your weakest point. Okay. And so you want to think of it like a choke, right? Like if there's like a big giant river and it comes to a choke point, okay, what's going to happen is whatever's choking your business is the part that I would attack right now because it is fourth quarter, but it's not like sales go crazy bonkers for Christmas today, right? October 1st, it doesn't go. No, you're trying to set yourself up. So figure out what your choke point is. Is your choke point your speed of picture taking? Is your choke point your speed of packing and shipping? Is it just not getting out and sourcing enough? Is it you source too much, but you don't actually get it listed? Figure out what the choke point is in your business. What is the thing that's going to keep you going from where you are to where you want to be and attack that choke point and get that. So for me right now, I know my choke point is net income. And so I am trying to grow this eBay store all from funds, like without borrowing any money or anything. And so my choke point is I'm not selling fast enough. So I'm constantly working to try to figure out what I need to do to be selling through things faster. Right now, I'm not worried about maximizing profit. I don't want all the money some of the time. I want some of the money all the time. And so I'm very liberal. If even with certain things, like obviously it's not the long-term plan, but even if all it is make a quick $5 profit or quick $10 profit on most things, I'm going to take it. If I have an item listed for 100 and recent comps are around 90 and someone offers me 75, I'm probably taking it. Why? Because I know my choke point right now is income. Now there might come a point down the road where my choke point is I've got too many sales, in which case then I can always just raise the prices and get rid of that choke point. But right now I know what that is. So you have to identify in your business what is the thing that is preventing you from taking it to the next level. That's the choke point, and figure it out. And I would attack that relentlessly until you get that fixed out. And hopefully if you start attacking that now, October 1st, by the time we get to October 31st and into November, you're going to have that. And then maybe you can start identifying another area that needs to be fixed. All right, question number 3. Again, if you have more questions and you're watching live, put them in the live chat. If you are watching on replay, post your comments down below, and I will maybe pick yours to be in the next Q&A video as well. So question number 3, when you list something you bought cheap at a thrift store, do you ever feel guilty about the profit margin? How do you balance fair prices with business sustainability? It's a great question. So to answer, do I ever feel guilty? Absolutely not. I've been doing this for a long time. We used to joke. I used to be part of a reseller group on Facebook called the Green Room, and we used to always joke in fourth quarter because there was a time that I was doing lots of toys, and this is when I was more active on Amazon. I'm just eBay right now at the moment. I would joke about the tears of children was like my fuel, clearing the shelf of hot Christmas toys. No, I don't feel bad about it because it's literally what our economy is based on. When you realize how cheap it is to produce the vast majority of the products and how much they're marked up for everybody else to get their cut, you're just participating in the economy that is what has made our country great in my thing. And are there companies that have taken advantage of this and ruined? Of course there are, because people are corrupt, and that's just how it is. But individually, on an individual basis, no, because I'm the one out there putting in the work. When I go through a thrift store, I don't even count, but like just going through a thrift store, I might spend 2 hours going through 2,000 plus items of clothing to try to find 3 or 4 or 5 pieces. That's a lot of work. And I believe that I deserve to be paid for that work of finding the best items and presenting the best items that I can to my customers. And so I don't feel bad about that. In terms of balancing fair prices with business sustainability, I like to price near the top of the market, but then aggressively mark down. That's my current strategy. Is that my all time strategy? No. Is that the strategy that you have to take? No. But my current strategy is I look at where are the high end comps of the market, even if there are maybe some lower currently listed actives, because there's certain ways I try to give myself an advantage over other sellers, and we can cover that a little bit. But I'm trying to price near the top of the market, but then at the same time aggressively mark down. So my goal with my store is to only buy things that can sell through in 90 days. So basically, I'm looking for things that have a 100% sell through rate when I'm in the store. And I also try to make sure that I will give those items the absolute best chance. And we're going to coming up here on the first batch of items that are they're probably around the 70-day mark. So in the next 20 days. Now, that doesn't mean I'm just going to get rid of them after 90 days. No, but the goal is to sell as many things as possible in that 90-day sell-through range. So how do I balance fair prices? I look at the market. I let the market tell me the prices. There's no reason to fight the market. There's no reason to think that you're smarter or better than the market. I let the market tell me the prices, but then I aim on the high end. Why? Because that way, when someone throws an offer, I can easily take it, because there's plenty of margin built in. But no, you don't need to feel guilt for honing on your craft and the eye that you've built. Don't feel guilty about it. And I feel like really from when I started, maybe I don't know if the thrifting side has any really ever felt guilty. Mostly that's internet trolls. But I really feel like there's very little stigma about reselling things that you buy at thrift stores online. There's so much stuff that goes through those thrift stores and so much that doesn't even get bought up. Think about it. The reason that people can make a living at the bins is because it's items, and sometimes good or great items, that got passed up at the thrift stores in the first place. So there's so much stuff that's making it through there that people are missing. So don't ever apologize for putting the hard work in and finding things, and doing that arbitrage. All right. Number 4, what's the biggest beginner mistake you see new sellers make right now? And what would you tell them if you had 30 seconds? All right. I there's so many little things that you could go. I'll highlight a couple of the general ones, and then maybe I'll land on what I would say is the biggest. Not being consistent is a huge thing. This idea that you can just list 20 things and then slowly let them sell through. I think that's a huge beginner's mistake. Pricing way too high, especially in flooded markets. Okay, now what I mean is this: like, if you're selling, say, sports cards, and you've got a run the mill average sports card, there's nothing super special about it. Like, yeah, it's serial numbered, but maybe to 500 or something. There might be 30 of those cards out there. There's zero reason why anyone's going to pay more than like $1 or $2 over like the lowest price card that's out there. And so I think a lot of beginner sellers, they shoot for the moon, which is fine when you're first listing it, but then they just leave their price on the moon. Like, you can shoot for the moon when you have something. You can aim for the highest possible comp that you can find. I have no problem shooting for the moon with that. But you also need to come down from the moon if the buyers aren't there. The market is undefeated. How's it going, Midnight? Hope you are doing well. And hello to everybody else who's watching here tonight. So just doing some 10 eBay questions. I appreciate you dropping in, Midnight. So I think pricing too high is really a big thing. There's a lot of really bad titles out there. I'm amazed, even if you're not great with titles. I mean, you guys got to realize that if you're not an expert in any of this stuff and you're not using AI to quickly become an expert in eBay listing, then you're just falling so far behind. Like, I don't use AI too much within eBay, but if I need it, I'm going to use it quickly. And there's zero reason to not just type into ChatGPT, here's a picture of my item, give me a 65 character optimized for SEO title for this item. If you have no idea what you're doing, like, start with that. I mean, and do the research and just like start digging in and figure out how best ways to list titles and different things. Then if as you know that, like, you're gonna get it, but you actually have to put in the work. And I think a lot of eBay sellers when they're new, they don't really want to put in the work of any of these things. And because it takes a lot of time, and it does when you first start. Like right now, I'm restarting. So it's taking me a long time to get through a thrift store. It takes me 2 hours to get through all the men's clothing. But I go in and I'm going to touch every single piece of men's clothing in that store. Why? Because I need to build the database in my head. And there's some stuff that I know from when I was doing this full time, 10 years ago, but there's a lot of brands that have changed. And so I need to go out there and I need to learn. And this is how I'm finding new things, is because I'm going out there. And yeah, it's annoying because it's maybe my 10th time through the store and 10th time touching some of those individual clothing items on the racks that, still nobody's bought because the thrift store overpriced them or whatever. But that's how you get better. You got to put in the reps, you got to put in the work. And I think ultimately, a lot of people think eBay is just this money machine, and it is, but it's not a money machine that functions without you. And so you can't just price it, list it, forget it. I just don't think that that's going to work for most things. Now, if you've got a really rare collectible that you're willing to sit on for 5 years, then that's fine. But that's not what most people are trying to sell. Most people wish that they could be selling through a whole lot faster than they are. And the only way you're going to do that is to do the product research, to do the keyword research, to do the title formation research, to do the pricing research, to aggressively mark down, to occasionally promote. You just like, it's kind of, eBay is like a full contact sport if you're really going to want to master it. So what I would say is put in the work. So I guess that the end of that question, what would I tell a new eBay seller if I had 30 seconds? Put in the work. And if you put in the work, you're going to see the results. And the more work you put in, the faster you do it. And there's so many great resources out there. Pick your niche and just start listening to YouTube videos as you list, as you watch. And like, I don't care. Like, you can listen to this as you're out there listing. But yeah, doing that. All right. Question number 5. And if you've got questions in the live stream, feel free to throw them in. I will cover those at the end. And if you're watching on replay, throw those in comments below. And please make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. This is a Side of Hustle Goal. This channel's moved 10,000 people from stupidly broken to fully free in soul, heart, mind, strength, and wallet. All right. Okay. Number 5, this is a good question. How do you handle working on your eBay business when you're also supposed to be setting aside a Sabbath or a rest day? So here's the deal. A lot of different people, and again, depending on your faith thing, maybe you don't care. I do think that you will be optimized and you will function at your best if you have a Sabbath day. Charlie Kirk, of course, was very well known for basically taking from Friday night to Sunday morning off. He would have it, and only emergencies would be coming to him. Like, he had it all set up that he would just have his phone turned off and doing that. So I do think there is a benefit to that. Right now, I can just tell you, I'm just not in the financial position to take a Sabbath day or a rest day. I probably spend about 40 hours a week on eBay, and I probably spend 50 hours a week on food and gig delivery right now, because that's where my finances are at. I don't think it will be difficult to shift into that. The way that you earn a Sabbath is you work your butt off the other 6 days of the week, right? I think the interesting thing is, nobody really takes a true day off, but a lot of people take kind of a weekend off, right? Kind of take from like Friday afternoon to Sunday night off. So a lot of people kind of take off 2.5 days instead of really just taking off one full day. And I think we would be much better off to work really hard for 6 days and then take the one day off, as opposed to kind of slogging our way through 7 days a week and doing that. But right now, just because of finances, because of some of my poor financial decisions, which you can look all over this channel, I kind of documented a lot of that, and feel free to ask more questions on it too. But I'm just not in a position to do that right now. But I'm hoping to get there. I would say within the next year, I would hope to get to the point where I could take a genuine one full day off completely from business a week. And there are simple ways to do that. Yep, the market is undefeated. It's tech and sports use that phrase a lot. The market is undefeated. There's no point in fighting the market. You can try to time it and you can get lucky, but I found most of the time trying to time the market versus just getting out there and doing that. How's it going, Carrie? All right. Um, so and there's plenty of things that you can automate with it too. So for example, you can have your listings scheduled to go. You could have you know there's just a lot of stuff that you can automate that you just have to work at. But the way to earn your Sabbath day is you work your tail off the other 6 days a week. That's basically the answer to that. Okay, question number 6. If I have only an hour a day to work on eBay, should I spend it listing new items, improving old listings, or shipping? What do you prioritize? All right, so there's a lot of different things here. I made my video from eBay sales earlier today, and I mentioned this in there. So I want to just reiterate this again in case you didn't catch that video. I'm about 5 days a week. I list everything that I'm selling on eBay and everything that I'm buying and sourcing for eBay. We're like a completely open book here. And it's primarily in men's clothing, though we are selling some other stuff from around the house, but just to kind of, so you kind of know on that. I would recommend that if you are not shipping at least 3 days a week, you move to that model. Move to 2-day handling time if you're offering more than that. Now, if you can do same day or next day shipping, then I would definitely recommend. But in the very least, I would recommend you move to shipping 3 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's a very, very simple way to do it, because if think about it this way: if you order something, say Friday afternoon, and technically the seller has, say, 4 days shipping on, and they don't even ship it till the following Thursday, that's way too long. In this economy, in this market, have it your way. You're competing with Amazon, you're competing with other sellers, you're competing with sellers like me who are shipping every day. I ship same day if you buy by 6 a.m. That's not super late in the day, but yeah, if anyone who buys from me by 6 a.m., your item's shipping out the same day. So I would recommend, if your handling time is more than 2 days, move it to 2-day handling time, ship Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, that's the first thing. You ship 3 days a week. No order is ever sitting around for more than like 2 business days, and you keep things moving. So I would do that, and I would just make that be the first thing that you do within that. I would make sure that you have at least one listing going up every single day. So if you're just trying to get started here, you're looking to have at least 7 items that you're listing a week, 1 a day. You want to build that eBay algorithm. And again, I would recommend shipping as soon as you can. I mentioned earlier today in that video again that it seems like after I ship, I often sell things. And sure enough, on the way to the post office, I had 2 sales right after I recorded that video. So it is tried and true that eBay doesn't really fully trust you to ship your items, especially when you're a smaller seller. And so the sooner you can get those items shipped, the more they will trust you to send you new buyers. And I'm very, very convinced of this fact, that the speed at which you ship will, in part, it's not the only thing, obviously the quality of your items matters too, but it will in part dictate the amount of customers that eBay is going to show your item to. Because if you're brand new, eBay doesn't want to send you 100 sales if they're not sure you can actually get those fulfilled. So you've got to kind of prove that. So within your other hour a day, I would probably just chunk it out, and I would say something along the lines of, maybe you ship and list on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you source Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, something like that. If you're doing 6 days a week, something along those lines. And then maybe on the 7th day, if you're going to do that, then I'd spend at least 1 day a week on just the maintenance of your actual eBay store. So whether that's lowering prices, delisting, fixing things, taking new pictures, fixing old bad listings, whatever that needs to be, purging bad inventory that needs to be donated or something like that. But that's probably what I would do. So I would probably list and ship 3 days a week. I would probably source 3 days a week. Make sure you can at least find the 7 items that you need those 3 days a week. And again, if maybe you just have a 3 thrift store rotation that you run for that, but that's what I would do. That's how I would spend 1 hour a day. 3 days a week, I'd spend 1 hour thrifting or garage selling or whatever your mode of sourcing is. 3 days a week, I'd spend it on shipping and listing. You get all those things up and that items are going live. And then 1 day a week, I would spend an hour on the maintenance of your store. All right. Number 7. Do you think running sales events every weekend in October is smart, or does that train buyers to always wait for discount? The vast majority of buyers have zero care in the world as to when they're going to buy. They're going to buy it when they're looking to buy it, and then they're going to just buy the best version of the item at the best price that they can find when they go and look for it. So I don't picture this isn't like, um, so in other words, buyers know that deals are coming, but they're not going to say, I'm not going to buy this today if it's a really good price because maybe it's going to be cheaper on Black Friday in 6 or 8 weeks or whatever that is, right? They're not, buyers aren't that patient. Um, what they're going to do though is they're going to say, let's say they're looking for a pair of Levi's jeans. They're going to type in Levi's jeans and the style and the size that they want. And they're going to probably, most of them are going to sort from low to high in whatever condition they want. And then they're just going to start clicking from low to high until they find one that they're comfortable buying. And they're going to buy the cheapest version that looks like what they're looking for in their head. And that's how I think most buyers are going to buy. I don't think most buyers are stalking your store and they're going to say like, oh, well, he ran a sale last weekend and he put something new today. So my sales, like I've got some sales things that I do, and I generally progressively mark stuff down. But I don't think any buyer's sitting and saying, you know what, he's at 44% off this week. Maybe he's going to go to 55% next week. No, if they want to buy it and they're looking to buy it today, they're going to do that. So whatever your sales strategy is, I encourage you to just go with it. I run my sales generally from Monday through Thursday and then Friday through Sunday. So I run a weekday sale and then I run a weekend sale. That's just what I'm doing right now. And it's very progressive. So I don't mark down much early on. The first 2 weeks I leave it at full price. Now we always have best offer on. So there's a lot of times that the sales come. The first couple of weeks are mostly through best offers. And then I just start marking down 11% off for the next 2 weeks, and then 22 for the next two, and then 33 for the next two. And then it just goes up 11%, 44, 55, 66, 77. That's the final month of my ideal 3-month rotation. So one of the ways that I'm trying to get to a 3-month sell through is that at the end of the 3rd month, that final week, that item is 77% off. Now, if it doesn't sell then I'll delist, I'll relist it as a brand new product, but fixing anything that was wrong with the listing, the title, the pictures, the description, any of the details that I might be missing. And I will always lower the price when I relist the second time around. So the goal is sell through in 90 days, but then also the goal is if it doesn't sell through in 90, I give it a nice remake, right? It's kind of like a remodel of the listing and make it look fresh, make it look new, come in with a better price, then it's going to go through that whole system once again. So we're not quite there with our clothing yet, but some of the earliest stuff that I thrifted before I started doing clothing here, that's hitting that 90-day thing here. So whatever your sales strategy is, I would not stop it. If you're making profit and it's helping you get sales out the door, run the sales however you want. So I don't think buyers are going to always look for the best price, but they're not going to be waiting for you to offer a discount per se. If you have best offers, they might make an offer, accept an offer from you, but I would definitely not be like, I'm training buyers to wait for sales from you. I just don't make that assumption. List your best item at the best price that you feel comfortable selling it right out the gate. For me right now, I do kind of high end of comps, so I have a little bit of flex and go from there. But whatever your strategy is, I would just go for it, and I would just keep pushing forward from October into November and December, and then just keep going from there. All right, question number 8. This is a really good question. How do you personally pray about your eBay store? Do you ask God for sales, for wisdom, for opportunities, for something else? So again, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus, so this definitely ties into how I think about things. So there are a variety of ways that I pray depending on where I am. One, I always like, when I pray, I say, God, you know what my financial needs are. You know the work that I'm putting in. Send me the right buyers for the right items, that the money will be there for the things that I need it for. So I do pray for that, but that's not necessarily eBay specific. That's just kind of just in general that God would provide in his time. For wisdom, absolutely. Again, another shortcut for wisdom that is not necessarily cutting God out of the mix per se, but use your AI, use your chat GPT. If you've got a situation and you're just not mentally or emotionally able to handle it, just state all the facts and tell chat GPT what you need, and then kind of use that, customize it, make it work. So I had double listed an item. So it wasn't that I had lost the item. I had created two listings for the same item. And I actually, thinking back, I remember why I did it, because I could not find the first listing and I had the item. Well, apparently some other buyer found the doubled up listing and I already sold the one. And unfortunately, the second time I sold it for more than the first time, but I only had one copy. And so I just was toast and I didn't know how to handle it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw that one into AI. Here's the situation. I want to be cordial. I want to be apologetic and send the refund. And then I also did a little work. I found another seller who had the same item and they actually had it a little bit cheaper than what they had bought it for. So I did that. And I said, please just craft this. And then I took the response, I customized it a little bit, and I sent that. Why? Because that takes my emotion out of it. And I think that's, for me, that's one of my big things. I'm working on overcoming it, but sometimes I do get too emotionally involved with it. So sometimes I got to help me take my emotion out of it. When I'm thrifting, I just have to say, God, show me, open my eyes so I can see what sort of things are there. And then I'm also always praying that God would just give me opportunities to just interact with people and treat people and bless people and encourage other people as you go. All right. Question number 9. If you guys have any other questions, make sure you throw them in the chat. Or if you're watching on replay, do that. Also, a reminder and a special shout out. Thank you to all the channel members that are part of this. We're going to be relaunching the Patreon here soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. I got to do a little bit of background, getting some stuff updated. I haven't done anything with it really this calendar year, so we're going to get the Patreon going. But thank you to channel members. If you want to become a channel member, it is always much appreciated in helping us expand and grow this channel. So question number 9. Right now, my store feels like clutter. Random categories, no theme. Is it better to niche down in Q4 or just keep listing everything I can find? And so great question. I would say this 100% depends on, are you trying to be a hobby seller or are you trying to really run a growing and expandable and a scalable business? If you want to be a hobby seller, then be an everything seller. But if you want to grow into a scalable business, I think you're best to focus on as few niches as you possibly can, as long as you can hit the sales goals of what you're trying to do. So I don't think that you need to niche down for Q4. I also don't think you need to chase toys for Q4. So I've sold millions of dollars in toys on Amazon in Q4 over the years. But I don't think you just have to chase toys. People buy all sorts of things all the time. And so you don't need to like go out of your current niche, but I also don't think you need to niche down. But if you're ready to move, not necessarily Q4 wise, but if you're just ready to move your store forward, when I first rebooted the store about 4 months ago, I was an everything seller for about a month. And I was like, you know what? No, I want this to be something more sustainable, more scalable. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go down to being a clothing seller. Now, I still have everything stuff in my store. I still have thousands of baseball cards and sports cards that I'm selling through. I still have some of stuff, our own stuff from around the house that we're selling, as well as some of the stuff that I bought when I first rebooted this store. But I'm not out there actively sourcing anything other than clothing right now, because I want to build a scalable store. If I wasn't worried about building a scalable store, then I would just go do kind of the more, I'm not going to really worry about looking at every single item in the clothing department. I'll just kind of look through the sections that I want, look through the toys, I'll look through the electronics. I'll just try to find some home runs. That's perfectly fine. So I don't think you need to niche down because it's Q4. But if you want to build a scalable business, something, it is so much easier when everything that you source is exactly the same. Or, and I don't mean exactly the same, but you understand, if all your listings are coming from basically the same category. I mean, I pretty much list in about 6 or 7 different categories on the men's clothing. It's t-shirts, sweatshirts, button-down shirts, dress pants, jeans. That's pretty much it. That's like five. That's five main categories there. So, um, you know, So I would just say you don't need to scale down because it's Q4, but I would encourage you to niche down if just because it's Q4. I would encourage you to niche down if you want to be able to scale your store to a much higher level. Carrie, thank you. I'll get to your question here in a second. This is question number 10, and then we'll take any live questions. And again, if you're watching on replay, then you can just post those in the chat, and then maybe you will be featured the next time we do a Q&A. Number 10, if I hit a sales slump in October, should I panic and lower prices or just stay consistent and trust the process? Everything to this question depends on what your sales goals are. And, most of the time, sales will start to pick up in October. For most people, the slump is summer, right? That's the summer slowdown. However, if you are primarily selling swim trunks and bubble machines, then yeah, you might be going into a bit of a sales slump and you might need to change things. I've even noticed within my store, most of my sales over the last week and a half have been sweaters, long sleeve shirts, flannels, plaids, jeans, pants, right? So today since that video I did this afternoon, I sold another sweater. And I have right now in my store lots of short sleeve polo shirts, Hawaiian shirts, shorts, swim trunks. So I'm not panicking, but I am definitely realizing, yeah, I need to make sure that I'm doing a little extra work and not just skipping all the sweatshirts or going through the sweatshirts and sport coats and the flannel shirts really fast and actually putting the work in to do the research. Like, okay, maybe there is some stuff here that I'm missing that I could be adding to the store. So definitely don't panic. Maybe lower prices, but that again completely depends on your strategy there. Um, so it just depends on why. You have to identify why your sales are slumping. Is it just algorithmic and people aren't finding it? And you're seeing, yeah, there's just lots of comps and lots of things are selling that they're just not finding your listings. Okay, then maybe there's something within your listings you need to fix. But it could also just be, look, you're just not carrying things that are in demand. So if that's what happens, then like I'm doing, I'm not going to panic and take down everything else I have up, but I'm going to be making sure I do a little extra double check through the jeans, through the long sleeve shirts. And yeah, I'm in Florida, so we don't get many of them, but when we do, we sometimes get good ones because it's people who move from up north and they don't want this stuff in their closet anymore, or it hasn't been worn in a couple of years, so it's in really good shape. So we do get good stuff. And how do I know? Well, because I've been selling it. But the problem is I only have so much of it and I'm selling through it quickly because that's just the season we're running into. So I would just make the adjustments that your store needs to do that. So good. All right, Carrie, these questions now are from the live chat. So if you have any other live chat questions, are there other sources besides thrift stores that might offer you good used clothes to add to your store? So the short answer is yes, there are. There are other good sources for used clothing. The issue that I have currently is most of those good sources for used clothing involve bulk deals, which involve a lot more cash than I currently have on hand right now. And the other thing, and I mentioned this before, I haven't even done a full count, but there's probably 40 to 50 thrift stores in my area. And I've been regularly going to 6 of them just because of time. So my thought and my hope is if I'm finding enough, I would say on average, I'm finding, 50, 30 to 50 items a week. We'll say that going to those 6 stores. So on average, 5 items per store. Um, I don't even have to worry about bulk buys until I can fully scale up and do the 250 to 300 a week that I think I need to get to by going to the other thrift stores in my area. But some of the other things that you can do, one, of course, you can just reach out and try to, you can set up like a Facebook Marketplace ad or something like that, that you're buying used clothing. So basically trying to step in between, a place like a consignment shop or a Plato's Closet and just kind of step in and say, "Hey, we'll buy your clothing straight up. We'll come to you. You don't have to come to us." That's one way. Of course, flea markets, the bins, and then wholesale deals. There's all sorts of things. But the problem is, if you're going to try to start working deals at the flea market, sure, they'll sell you one item, but they're really looking for bulk buyers. Why? Because they're going to the bins all week, finding all this stuff. So they would just love to say, "Hey, here's 200 pairs of jeans at $4 a piece, or $3 a piece, or whatever the price is." Um, that's just money I don't have to tie up in that. What I like about the thrifting is because I'm listing every day, generally speaking, I can hopefully get to the point where I can get out every day, take the money of the items that sold, buy twice as much inventory with the profits, and then keep expanding the store that way. So there are ways that I do want to expand in the future should I continue with the men's clothing. Like there, I see the way to scale up eventually, but I also have to scale up smartly since I'm trying to do this all in cash. So, um, but thank you, Carrie. Thank you for that question. Again, if you're watching live, this is your last chance to kind of type in some questions. I still have to do my listings here tonight. I got to get my 6 listings up and get those done. And if you're watching on replay, just post your question down in the comments below. I'll try to give a short answer, but then maybe you'll see your questions featured. So other than that, please hit that like, hit that subscribe. I appreciate you guys hanging out, and hopefully this is helpful to you. And we're just going to keep working on answering all the questions that you guys have and going from there. So that being said, I appreciate all of you. Get going. What we talked about, remember that choke point, wherever the log jam is or the choke point is in your business, just attack it, attack it, attack it, attack it until it's no longer a choke point and help you scale to the next level. And just put that work in. And definitely you're going to see the results paying off if you put that hard work in over fourth quarter. But I want to really say it's really over the next 6 weeks. It's from October to mid-November, maybe 8 weeks, maybe through the end of November. But put that work in so you can see the results that you want. So I think that's it. Let me just refresh, make sure there's no other questions that I missed. Nope, it looks like we are good. That being said, I appreciate all of you, and hopefully this was helpful to you. And let me know if you have any other thoughts down in the comments below. But have a good night until we do this again.